here
we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the World Series of Board Gaming. My name is Chris George.
And I'm Zach Groombridge.
And we are here today to take a look at the ring final for Splendor that happened at the World Series of Board Game 2022 in an almost live situation. We're live, we're watching it live, and we're going to see how this game pans out. So why don't we head to the table immediately?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is going to be a long game. There's going to be a lot of decisions to happen, and we'll introduce you to all of the players and get right to it.
Charles randomized those and picked 5 out. So
there we go. So which players are in this game here, Chris?
All right. So starting from the top left corner, sitting in seat 1, you hear everyone talking about poker. There are a couple of poker players at this table. One of them being Michael Wong. He is in seat number 1. Right next to him is Gray Baker in seat number 2. Then in seat number 3, down in the bottom right corner, also in the other 2 shot on the corner on the right, we have Wei Luo. And then finally in seat 4, we have Levi Marino.
Very cool. And so throughout the whole competition, were the players shuffling their own cards? Did they have someone at the table working on that with them?
Yeah, so the sort of structure of the game as they're just finishing the setup and making sure it's all shuffled up. We hear Michael saying he's a poker player. He came in from Australia. He loves Splendor, but everyone gives it a quick shuffle so that everyone's had a hand in shuffling. No one can.
Get all our super serious faces on.
No one can adjust the results.
I'm going to be a little stickler about.
You hear the judge, the GM,
because that card makes my job easy.
Declaring the rules.
Once you hand that card to somebody, your turn's over. And if you made a mistake, we're not going back. Okay. So and also likewise, for the exact same reason, don't start playing until someone hands you the card. If you start your turn and someone hasn't handed you the card, we're going to have to unwind your turn, show everybody, unwind everything you did. If you revealed anything, and we don't do all that. So don't start playing until somebody hands you the card. Okay. Cool. Good luck, have fun. Go ahead and deal them out.
And I think those are great rules to really emphasize right off the bat, especially in something like Splendor, where you might want to grab that card. You might really want that card, and if your opponent is still debating and shuffling their chips and saying, maybe I'll do this, maybe I won't, it's just great to have a clear distinction of when the turns are moving over.
Yeah, I think it's also, you risk giving away a little bit of your strategy if you move too early.
Rigorously shuffled, so that is, I agree, that's one too many. So we're going to go ahead and take, here's example number 1 of that. I'm done. We'll shuffle that back.
And we see what flying in from Australia can do. Also, these players have been playing Splendor for a long time. They've all had to win their way into the competition. This took place. This was one of the first games in the World Series. This was on the first day, on the Wednesday. The only other game that was played today was Seven Wonders. And so this is everyone's first ring final, really getting into the game.
I see there's lots of reds and lots of greens on our starting field here.
That's true, and you'll see we're going to be putting in post a better starting field than what the camera has picked up. There's a little bit of exposure whenever there are white cards up, so we've replicated it here in the studio to make it a little bit easier to read on the board.
So lifelike.
So if you see a different background than the gorgeous game theory table that the players are playing on as their final table, then that is the reason why. This game theory table was given away to the winner of the World Series of Board Gaming as well.
Wow.
Pretty good. I believe it was this one. I think they got a game theory table. They also gave away 2 tables, one for you were engaged in a raffle for just showing up, and then one for if you attended the final ceremonies. There was a raffle there as well, which is pretty cool. It's nice to be able to win something, even if you don't take home that full prize.
Mm-hmm. And these are folding tables?
No, they're wooden, solid tables. Yeah.
Jealousy fills me up.
So we see Michael starting us off, taking a green, white, and red, also known as emerald, diamond, and ruby. But we'll probably, at least I will, just
green,
call
white,
them
and red
by their actual Latin terms: green, white, and red.
Colors are king.
And these initial decisions are huge. So if we look at the board, we saw some of the players talking about, oh, was this shuffled? Because there's a lot of blue, high point value cards that require blue, but there's no blue cards on the board right now. So the decision here is, are you going to commit to purchasing one of those blue cards? As we see Gray reserving the 7 blue and 3 green worth 5 points. As you know, it only requires 15 points to win the game. So if you were to complete that, that's 1/3 of the way to victory. But it's a tough it's a tough.
Yeah, very tough decisions here.
Yeah.
I'm looking up at the nobles right now, and they all are quite high pot point cards, but they all require blues, greens, and whites, and all the reds that are clogging up our bottom 2 rows here. They're going to be a little tough to make those commitments.
And Wei making the choice to take that 7 green, as we see there's also there's 1 green card at least on the board to help get the game off to a start. I'm just rearranging to make sure it's reflective of what is out there.
Levi going for the black card, or the black gem. Not sure what that really buys him other than some low-cost things right now.
Well, my main strategy in Splendor, and I'll be interested to see if any of the competitors follow it. I feel like I usually win it whenever I play Splendor, but my main strategy is to go for the level 2 cards, and that might be what Levi is.
And just hoping that something comes up that makes use of it later.
Yeah, I find those level 2 cards give you good value in trying to get a level 2 card out to begin with. But it's interesting to see all 3 players have reserved a card right off the bat, and it's Michael who's taken chips, not worried about others blocking him.
They may be fishing for blue cards here. That might be why they've been reserving these cards. They might not actually want them in their display.
To see what comes up.
Yeah.
What's interesting too about Splendor, you'll see that for those who are unfamiliar with Splendor, we should explain it a little bit and say on your turn you can do 3 things. You can take gems, you can reserve a card, or you can purchase a card. We have not seen anyone purchase a card right yet, but we've seen Michael take gems, and we've seen everyone else reserve a card, which then gives them a wild token. But the amount of gems available differs significantly for varied player counts. So in a 4-player game, there'll be 7 gems in the stack, whereas in a 3-player game, there'll be 5 gems, and in a 2-player game, there'll be 4 gems. And this is important because when you take gems, you can choose. We see Gray reserving another card right there, a small green one, potentially trying to immediately combat Wei's strategy.
You can see, there's so much thought going on this table. Splendor is usually quite a quick game in my home tables, but at this high level, we're seeing lots of thought going into every one of these choices.
And that's exactly it. It's they're playing for a spot in the semifinals right now. They're playing to be crowned the Splendor champion. Not. We see Wei.
Really like to be doing a commentary on this right now already. Neat game.
It's interesting to see people reserving cards right off the bat because you can only also reserve 3 cards, and then you can't reserve any more until you complete one of those, until you purchase one of those cards.
It really surprises me reserving these low value cards, especially because if resources are what you're after, it's so much more valuable just to go for the gems instead of the wild gold.
And there are so many gems that are available for people because it is a 4-player game and the stacks are 7.
Mm-hmm.
But perhaps, Zach, that's To quote a phrase, that's why we're sitting here and they're sitting there at the final table.
Too true.
Levi having just taken now blue, white, and brown.
White's an interesting choice. There's not a whole lot of options other unless he's going for the 4th tier cards right away. Perhaps he might be denying the white gems to other people.
But again, in that 4-player game, when you have the 7 gems of each, it's really hard to deny people gems, at least in these initial stages.
Man of culture.
Clearly.
But you see people reserving cards because they are worried if they show their hand and show what they're committing to, someone else will just reserve it. And then you've invested your time and your action efficiency on taking something. So you see Gray is the first person to take 2 gems of a color. You can either take 3 of different colors or 2 of the same color, as long as there are 4 left in the stack. So that really changes the game drastically between a 2-player game and a 4-player game because of that, again, the extra chips that we were talking about.
So he used the 2 wild tokens and the 2 red tokens. But that doesn't really open up the board to a whole lot for him. I still would expect to go for the 3 gems.
Well, remember in his hand he does have that level 1 card, the green one that requires 3 red. So that's probably why you started to grab up some red. I'm surprised no one's going for that bottom left first row one. It only costs 4 white, and you get a point with it. With so many reds on the board, but not a lot requires red, I think we'll be seeing people try to specialize in red, or maybe that's why they're avoiding it.
The late game in Splendor really sort of is benefited by you having established exactly the engine you're going to need to buy the cards you want in the end. So maybe people are just avoiding those early points, knowing that this is a high-tier game.
And it's interesting, you mentioned Levi taking that one that cost 6 brown early on, and he's now taken 3 brown and plus at least 1 wild. Again, going for that second card immediately first, which is my preferred strategy. Michael purchases a card outright, giving him a stack of 1. Gray getting that 3rd red that he'll need to purchase what he's been working on. See, Wei looking at his cards, he's holding on to 2 level 3 cards. You can tell by the color on their backs. That's a heavy investment. It doesn't give him a lot of wiggle room if he's not able to get those out quickly.
And he doesn't have that many gems, so he's going to be a little slow ramping up into those cards.
And that's
So we all know how to rattle Levi.
Oh no, I definitely have OCD.
Oh, man. There we go.
the one great thing about Splendor are these
Dirty
gems.
fool,
The
man.
chips, they're just fun to play
That
with.
throws him off this game.
They really are.
Yeah.
I've purposefully not put them out on our own setup here because I know we would be wanting to play with them for the majority of the game.
You mentioned them, I immediately had the impulse to palm some chips.
But it's funny if it happens.
Okay. So everyone that wears glasses and stuff, which makes sense. Glasses make sense. But
So 2 of you played poker?
Yeah, it's so
Oh,
weird. And he's wearing a sweater from Houston. I'm from Houston.
poker equals greatness. Is what I
The 2 poker players versus the 2 non-poker players. Let's see if those skills do translate, as Gray is saying.
We see the blue gems are cleared out. It's going to lock up purchases for a while, but there's not that much on the board that does require blues other than the very top tier 4 cards.
And remember, those were the ones that were reserved at the beginning. Gray, I believe, reserving that 7 and 3, requiring 7 blue, and then Wei reserving the one that cost 7 blue as well. So this might be a preemptive strike of just holding on to blues so that they can't get them, but it just feels too soon for that sort of behavior, especially in Splendor. You're talking about...
don't know about you guys, but this is a weird game.
This is a weirder game, as Gray is saying, because there's no clear pathway to victory.
Oh, the table's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely the nicest table I've played on today.
Yeah, right.
The players talking about playing at that final table.
They're complimenting the table they're playing on right now.
Exactly.
I wonder which one of them's going to win it. Or if any of them do.
We can see it looks like it's Michael's turn. The card is close to him. I believe he has his other cards separately.
Yeah, but Michael's one of our poker players, correct?
Correct. It's Michael and Levi, the poker players.
You can see him shuffling his chips just like a poker player might.
I think everyone's going to want to shuffle your chips in Splendor. But yeah, this is a really interesting board as it lays. There's so much red on the board and so many cards that don't require red. I think that initial grab of the green card from gray was a good one, because if you look to the second level, there are 2 cards which require green investment, so at least you're building towards those 2 things. We'll probably see gray build that right now, because he has the chips. There he goes, paying the 3 red.
I guess you're probably not that pissed then if you're full time, because you're probably doing a much.
So that's going to give him a free green gem. That opens up a lot of these low-cost cards to be very cheaply purchased for
Yeah.
him.
Of course, I mean, it's awesome. It doesn't matter.
This is such a cool event.
It really is.
Yeah. I've never done a board game convention.
The one in Arizona where I live, they just closed it permanently. And I was like distraught because they did a tournament. And it was super fun.
Yeah.
And it was like,
What, a board game place?
what was it?
A board game place?
No, it was a guy held it at the convention center every year.
They're talking about the event, and you can feel the excitement of the event, especially this being the first night, and this being the second match. Seven Wonders was streamed live before this,
Survived, but then didn't end
and
up
then
surviving, so
Splendor took place pretty much immediately after the Seven Wonders final.
They stopped for 2 years because of COVID, and they had the last one like 3 months ago, and it had the biggest attendance ever.
Do you know if any of these players registered for the Seven Wonders tournament?
No, they couldn't because they were playing Splendor all day.
Oh, you're right.
Because yeah, you'll only be able to play one tournament a day, and so this year's schedule worked out that the first day was Splendor and Seven Wonders, and that was it. So those were your choices if you were doing a 4-ring stay and play. But next year there'll be 4 games on each of the days, so that you have a little bit more variance and can spread out your schedule the way you want. But it's impossible to play in two tournaments just because of the length of some of these games. Like Splendor is a fairly quick game, but you get some games like Gaia Project or Terraforming Mars or now Arc Nova, which is in next year's, and those can be 3 to 4 to
There's some heavy games.
maybe 5-hour games. So they start early in the morning and play for a while.
Are you still on Australia time then because you were over there? Wasn't it like
Pretty much, yeah. But I've like gone without sleep for so long. Just like
Michael saying he's moved beyond sleep.
like 6 or 7 hours?
That perhaps this is going to be his superpower to unlock the win. Levi making the decision. It's unfortunate because now you see, we saw that poker chip flip from Levi, a clear poker player. But now you see the options being limited. Everyone can have a maximum of 10 gems in their hand, so to speak, in their area, and then they must spend them. But Levi will want to get more brown, and he currently does not have it, so he instead is paying 2 gems, the blue gems, to get his white out on the board.
White is an important resource in this game for sure.
In this one in particular, well, now we might see Levi try to reserve and get that white engine going. Try to reserve the top left, the one that costs 7 white and gives you 4 points. But right as I say that, Michael, sensing it, also having a white in his display, takes it for his own.
Gutsy move. Lots of denial at the top of this board.
I have a lot of choices.
Gary taking some more gems.
Gray.
Oh, sorry about that. Gray. I think we're going to see him reserve something here. I think he's trying to bide his time.
Are you talking about Wei?
Yeah.
Well, Wei's got to purchase something now, and he doesn't have a lot of great options. And you see him, one option is to reserve a card from the top of the deck. You go in blind, you don't know what it is, but you could potentially get something better. We just saw a peek at it. I believe it was a red gem, and it looks like it would cost him 3 white to build it. That's what I caught from my brief glimpse. Certainly doesn't seem like that panned out, because the 4 white that is on the board is a much better card if you're going to
Reserve a card.
And that might come back to bite Wei. He's now full up. He can't reserve any other cards. He's forced to play with whatever cards are on the board.
If I was one of these players, I might just commit to trying to nab all these cheap red gems and just hope that there's something to spend it on.
I think that's it. In a 4-player game, the amount of turnover that's going to happen is significant. But then, of course, you are dependent upon the deck. And you're dependent on people doing that turnover for you. And if nobody does, and you've invested all your resources on useless stuff,
That's poker question right there.
still a friendly atmosphere around the table. Even though the stakes are pretty high, they're playing for one of those gorgeous rings valued at around $2,000 and a seat in the semifinals. But I'll tell you this, Zach, after doing a bunch of these commentaries already, the atmosphere around the table has always been really nice. It's something that, like, I feel I would enjoy sitting down to play at any one of these tables and feel welcome, even though players are playing at a competitive level and the stakes are that high.
I absolutely agree. I watched a number of the live streams, and everyone seemed to be really genuinely enjoying themselves the whole time. There we
see Michael get that 4 white, giving himself a point. Michael now in the lead with 1 point. The only points showing on the board. He only needs 14 more.
Yeah, really interesting position. Everyone holding on to their money, trying to deny as much as possible.
And we see Gray make a big spend for a blue. As soon as the blue came out, he knew he was going to use his wild on it to try to get that blue.
That makes sense. There's almost all of the nobles at the top of this board here require blue cards. They're going to be valuable. Wei is real stuck down here. He's got to make a purchase.
That's true. At least there is a white gem that he could take, but if he were to take gems, he'd only get to take 2. Can't count the number that he has in his stack. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So maybe he can only hold 2.
The denial game is only going to get him so far. He's got to start building an engine.
You can see him trying to think it through. This is a tough position to be in.
Oh, he's
just
committing.
going to bite the bullet and get at least a brown, which can be used for some of the level 2 cards. I think that is his best option in this current moment in time.
Another blue comes up. I bet Levi's going to jump on it if he can. Does he have the coins for it? I think he does.
Although I don't know if Levi's interested in blue. Doesn't Levi? I believe Levi has the 6 brown reserved.
Mm-hmm.
And he might have a blue reserved. I've honestly lost track. This is also so important, an important note. It's very easy to lose track of what people are holding in this four-player game. You have a lot to keep track of, and you're wanting to focus on your own plays, and then remembering the exact amount that other people want is why you'll see this game move a little bit more slowly than you might play it at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everyone's thinking very deeply, and another reserve coming out of Levi.
Looking probably to get that additional chip to invest in his brown. But that leaves that blue door open from Gray, both Gray and Wei reserving the blue at the beginning. Michael was taking chips. I don't know if Michael's interested in taking that blue, but he might, just to stop Gray from getting another potential blue moving towards that big 5 pointer that requires those 7 blues and 3 greens.
Mm-hmm.
And no, go for it, Zach.
There's a little bit of a mind game going on here as well, because now the question is whether these players remember what the first cards that each other reserved were. Are they trying to block those first cards? Do they even remember what they were?
That's exactly
and how to play around them.
And it's hard to do after a longer day of playing games. Michael just takes some gems. Michael having 2 cards up in his engine. Gray also having 2. Wei and Levi both with 1.
Or 10.
Yeah, 10.
Like a millisecond embarrassing.
It's impossible.
You see the little moments that can happen. The double check of 10 chips on Michael. Gray immediately thought, wait, how did someone get to 10 points? And I've been in that situation so many times. You're so focused on your own plan and on the other things that when then a comment comes that you're not expecting, it comes out of left field, it can give you quite a scare.
Some very deep thought coming out of Gray, both hands on his head, doing the math.
I wonder, there is a chip to reserve. And he needs those blues for later on. We might see him reserve that blue here. And that's exactly what he does. Knowing he needs those blues to further himself at the very end. Some green coming up now. This might be exciting for Wei, who needs green for his final, one of his final cards.
It's tough. I'm trying to remember what cards Wei has reserved. I don't remember it being anything particularly desirable. I'm seeing 2 reds and is that a blue there, Chris?
A green. It's got a green on it, but I think he reserved the 7 blue. One that requires 7 blue and gives you 4 points and has a green on it. And then I think he also reserved something that required green. Because I remember saying that he would like that green that popped up, and then Gray took it for himself and reserved it.
Hmm. Oh, we have a purchase coming. And he's buying the red for 2 points.
That's a big purchase.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of wild coins spent on that.
Finally starting to get his engine going a little bit. We're trying to keep track of it here in the studio.
Yeah, I'm gonna start getting some red string to tie on these clothespins, Chris.
Eh.
I think that was a really good purchase on Wei's part. He is kind of broke now as far as gems go.
No, but that the fact that he was able to lead up to it, and especially since he's playing only on the board, that was a really clutch play. It also gives Levi the opportunity to get those brown now to get his own points out on the board if he has the space in his reserve.
Yeah, I believe he has reserved a very high value card that requires brown gems.
6 brown. You see him taking a peek at it.
Great Western Trails, Wingspan tomorrow. Great Western Trail the day after.
Talking about Great Western Trail?
Yeah, they're talking about their schedules for the week.
Ah,
Most people opted for the 4-day tournament entry, which why wouldn't you, I think? It was the best value. You got a hotel stay along with it at the same time.
I mean, even if you get knocked out, you're in Vegas, and you're surrounded by board gamers.
That's true.
It's paradise.
Doom. That's right. The game I have no chance of playing, I don't think. I love the game, but not nearly as good as you need to be to win.
Sorry, I don't even know. Never played.
It's very, very good.
Nice.
Levi making an interesting choice there. He's got his gems. You can see him counting. He's forced to put a gem back, though, because he's over his
It's a good spec builder or
amount of 10. I'm surprised he didn't take 2 brown, but he ended up diversifying.
Yeah. With the amount of money he's got, I'm also surprised he just didn't buy to get rid of gems instead of overloading himself like that.
I agree. It seems like a tough call. He wants to get those big points out there, but swapping gems is never something you want to do.
It's just wasted efficiency. And here we have Michael making a purchase. That's how you move your gems out of your hand.
And getting those greens. Well, I feel there's 2 schools of thought. One that Michael is sort of employing in terms of trying to buy those lower tiered cards, and then the other school of thought being just go for the points. It doesn't matter. Try not to get the lower tier cards because they are less efficient. They're not giving you any points. They're just wasting your turns in terms of getting them. And is that really going to yield you enough down the line as you try for maybe a noble strategy? And it's interesting, I was just looking to see if Michael was in contention for the nobles, but the only thing that requires red up in the nobles also requires blue cards and green cards. So he's got half of the way there, but no blue cards to go by.
There's a long way to go there, yeah.
We've got to see Levi purchases 6 right here. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's been sitting on it for a while. Levi shoots the lead,
3 points.
but it's still a very close game as people get their engines together. And these initial points that you get at the very beginning they're important, but what's more important is that you set yourself up in terms of the gems that you're getting.
Yeah, the higher value cards later in the game are big swings in points. Just to recap our points right now, I believe it's Levi in first with 3 points. Then Wei with 2 points in the bottom right corner. And then the top left corner, Michael with 1 point right now.
That's I believe correct. And both of Gray's are not currently scoring points, but he does have some points in his hand, as do all of our competitors. So we know Gray picked up that blue card that he's going to want to be purchasing. Trying to get the gems for that. It's also helpful because blue is in 4 of the 5 nobles up top. Way again going just for that
Been a distinct lack of chips the whole game, gentlemen.
that brown strategy. Now that there are brown coins available.
I feel like we're all just trying to slowly choke each other down on the lack of options.
And it's interesting, Gray was just saying there, we're all just trying to wait each other out because there aren't many options. It's Levi's turn now, still, I believe. He's deciding. And he goes for a wild reserve off the top.
Ooh.
Again, people just hoping that they can get lucky here because none of the options are good, and you don't want to turn up a really valuable option for your opponents. Can't quite see what Levi has, but it will soon be revealed at some point. And now we see Michael beginning to pick up speed, purchasing a 2-pointer, getting himself to 3 points as well.
Yeah, he's using these low cost cards that he's gathered to fund his further expansion. It's really on everybody else to stop trying to. They can't cut that off by holding onto chips anymore, or quite as efficiently.
Yeah. We see Gray fire back with getting his second blue out on the board, which, again, is really important to his endgame strategy with that big 7-3.
I'm also OCD.
No, it bothered me when I put it down. I was like, yeah. It's not later.
Right now, it feels like Michael's in the best position. Feels like Gray's in second best position.
It does feel like Michael's eked out a bit of efficiency. The question is whether anyone else will be able to make a purchase that cuts him off, or that just gives them flat more benefit.
But you never know, because while Michael is spread out in terms of his diversification, Gray has a solid plan. He's going for those blue, and he's committing to that plan early and hoping that the blue will yield points down the line as well, that he can scoop up when people make their choices.
Yeah, and you can see on the board there are the blue points in the nobles and in the tier 3 cards.
And currently in 2 of the level 2 as well. Like blue feels really valuable right now. That's why you see so many people scooping it up. And the fact that Gray is the only one to have blue gems as the basis of his engine feels pretty significant. Levi once again going for gems, probably to try to fill in that card he just reserved. The mystery card that could make all the difference, Zach.
I'm super curious. I was looking very closely when he pulled it towards his hand, whether I'd be able to peek inside. I have no idea. It could be any color. Though I think it's fairly common on these cards that the gems you require to purchase it are usually not the color of the card itself, at least at low levels.
That's true. Especially in the level 1, you likely won't need too many. You can see on the board right now that the bottom left green still requires 1 green to purchase, but it requires a few more of the others. And then when you get into the level 2, in level 2 there's 6 of each color, and they're all sort of broken down in the same way. There's guaranteed 1 card that costs 6 of the color that Levi has. You see how it's a brown card that costs 6 brown?
Yep.
There's guaranteed to have that one. There's also guaranteed to have one which is 5 and gives you the same, but it only gives you 2 points. So those are always guaranteed to come up. Well, not necessarily come up. They could be stuck in the deck, but those are cards that exist for every single color. And then as the colors move forward, you usually get 1 card that requires 4 of something, 2 of another, 1 of another, and that's worth 2 points. And then you get a couple of 1-pointers that have more of a spread across the board. But there's 6 cards of each color in the level 2. There's a few more in level 1. And I think there's like 4 in level 3. I'm not quite sure about that.
Now I know why you're always beating me at Splendor, Chris.
Well, I just learned this when I was setting up the deck as I was looking through it. And you can bet that these players know the exact breakdown of how many cards are in the deck. That's the sort of information that you want to learn and memorize and know also if you're going to be taking those risks, what is the probability of you drawing something that you want or that you don't want?
That might be an advantage for our poker players here. That's some calculus that they're very used to making. A reserved card here.
We see Gray reserving a top one that requires blue, green, and red. And
He's
a
quite
big
close
card,
to that already.
big card being revealed.
A 5-pointer, yeah.
Another 5-pointer. There's 2 5-pointers on the board. One that specializes in red and one that specializes in green. But this one might intrigue people to start going down that red path if they can.
But no, Wei says no, I want to buy that white card. Adding that to his little engine.
Well, Wei's got to get rid of that one card in his hand that costs 3 white. He has to open up a spot for him to be able to reserve, because everybody else still has that capacity, and he's just stuck. And Levi is able then to reserve where Wei could not, because he had those 3 initial. And that makes a lot of sense for Levi to take that card, especially because it requires the red. And we do see still 3 red on the board. There's less red because people have been picking it up.
I swap it.
Reluctantly, it seems, Chris.
I swap it. Anybody want
Yeah,
it?
right. When I reserved that, I was like, I really don't want to open up something for.
Levi said, wait, can I please swap and take the card that just came up? And it's true, that one would be better for his engine because he already has a brown.
And I believe he has a reserved brown in his hand. Beyond the brown he just reserved. So a little bit of a brown strategy from him. That is not going to open him up to too many nobles down the line.
That's true. You could see he might have been considering the white and brown noble with his initial plays.
To return one.
Michael being forced to return one. I find this is always hard to see. Sometimes you have to do it, and the swap can be helpful, but ideally you want to be threading that needle where you get to 10 and you spend, and you get to 10 and you spend, and there's no wasted gems that you just can't hold. And we see Gray counting his gems. He might almost be close to being able to fulfill that 7-3 because he's only gotten green and blue, and he needs both of those to fulfill that big 5-pointer. I think he has 5 blue currently between chips and cards, and he might have his 3 green. So if he has 2 wild there, he could fulfill it on his next turn, which would be a huge jump in points. There we go. Wei finally getting that card out of his hand.
Good job.
He needed that. Comes a turn too short as Levi takes the card that for sure Wei was wishing he was able to reserve.
Man, Splendor develops in such a delightful way. Everyone is taking such small incremental steps towards victory. It's so hard to see into the future of where the game will end up. Almost every decision has the potential to be incredibly impactful. And there is a purchase card.
Levi getting in on those reds, which he knows he'll need for his big 5 engine.
Yeah, you're seeing it now. The people who were avoiding reds at the beginning are now jumping on them. They see the value of them coming up.
Jumping for joy. They're seeing red, Zach.
I hope not. Terraform Mars hasn't gotten played yet in the tournament, has it?
Not yet, no. Future Levi will find himself at that table. But for now, the focus is just Splendor. And we see Michael just having purchased another 2-pointer. Michael being at 5 points right now.
Michael's engine is very much starting to ramp up.
And we see Gray is playing that big 5-pointer, though, not to be deterred. Gray is finally on the board with points.
That actually catapults him in, I believe, tied for first place with Michael.
Tied for first.
Big swing, especially early here in this game when not a lot of points are on the board.
We see Wei reserving that 7 brown that Levi was wanting.
Good timing on that, because I'm sure Levi would have tried to jump on that. How many cards does Levi have reserved right now?
I believe 3.
Oh, okay.
So even though another red one came up, Levi cannot have access to it. And Wei can no longer have access to it either. Wei has 3 level 3 cards reserved, which is just a really tough space to be in. He's got to get one of those completed, again, to give himself that flexibility that you need. And also the ability to just reserve a card to get a wild, which sometimes you need to do to really just get the final finishing touches on the cards you need to finish.
It feels like all the big purchases in the last couple rounds here have involved those wild tokens.
I personally love seeing the ebb and the flow of the chips in the bank. We've seen the bank be dry for like a round, and then everyone kind of dumps in, and the possibilities open up again.
We saw a lot of counterplay at the beginning of this game. How much do you think these players are considering counterplay now, and how much are they just pursuing their own end goals?
Well, it's tough. It's really tough at a 4-player game of Splendor because Splendor's a race, right? You have to get there first, and if you're spending time denying someone else around the table in a 4-player game, you're wasting an action to stop someone from having an action, but you're essentially giving your other 2 competitors an extra action on the both of you. So playing that ebb and flow, usually you'd have to take care of the person on your left. That's sort of the assumption, is that if, for example, it's Michael's turn right now, if Gray was going to win the game on his turn, Wei and Levi would probably take the opportunity to do turns that would benefit themselves and then force Michael to make that decision because he just falls in that turn order.
Right.
And obviously Michael's not going to just let someone win, so then you'd be forced to make that block. And then if you're Wei or Levi, you've benefited from that turn. So if you're taking care of blocking the person on your left, that's pretty much all you can do. I also, around whenever talking about Splendor, try to remember what everyone has and then point out to the person on the left what they need to do if
In order to put the onus
in order to
off of
put the
yourself.
onus off myself, yeah. Because if I'm Gray right now and Michael needs to be blocked, well, it doesn't make sense for me to block Michael because there's 2 other players to play.
Right, and reserving a card or something will just open up opportunities for the 2 people after you.
Exactly. Or even opens up another opportunity for the person who you're trying to block.
Right. We aren't hearing a whole lot of table talk at this game, but they're playing at such a high level, they probably all are following this logic without having to verbalize it to each other.
I think that's it. And we haven't really seen an instance where we need to yet. But I think we've seen that happen both with Gray needing to take that green early on, right after Wei had reserved a green, because he also knew he needed green. We see Levi now being able to get a card out of his hand, which is pretty important. Looks like a brown card. And back over to Michael. Splendor's a thinky game, and it can go quite quickly. But there's so much on the line, I understand the time that these players are taking to really try to find the optimal play. I actually haven't found them to be playing that slow, considering the stakes of the match.
Me either. And I think Michael's got to be careful here. His engine is starting to cook. He is sort of ahead on points, but making a mistake on his turn will throw him backwards in points, or will it will lose him his progress surprisingly quickly. And there's a reserve.
He's again reserving a large card. That's the 7 green and the 3 red. That's a pretty big reserve from Michael. I was
So question.
expecting. Oh, well, pause for a
I
second.
saw it and I forgot it instantly. How long do you
Oh no,
think
I meant pause my
to
talking.
Still, or is it my turn now and I've lost my opportunity to see that?
It'd be all right to ask.
Okay. May I see?
Yeah, sure.
That's what I thought it was, but my brain like kind of stopped working for a second. So,
Gray just getting clarification. Sometimes the cards get flipped over so quickly. I mean, that one was there for a long time, but you don't see what people are reserving. So Gray was just saying, "Hey, can I take a peek at that, so I know which gems to immediately steal from you?" Is that okay? But it's true. You're so focused on your own engine, you sometimes miss the other things that people are grabbing, and you need to again pay attention to that sort of thing. A perfectly legitimate ask, and Michael was very willing to show it.
I also suspect Michael reserved that less for his own less to add it to his own board, and more to deny it.
Could be. It's a big card. You can't let someone else get it, and he also has a green and a red, so he can focus on that in a little bit. I would imagine Michael would be interested in purchasing, just scooping up that 1-point card in the second row right now, the second from the left, because he has 2 browns, so he's covered there. He has a green and he has a white. All he needs is 2 green, 2 white to again keep that brown engine going, and
he has the wild token right now.
Scoop up a point. I wouldn't waste my wild token on that. The wild feels like you don't want to waste it on a card that costs 1 point unless you really need it or are really blocked for some reason. But it's tough because it never feels good, honestly, to get a 1-point card. Especially when there are 2-point cards out there that have a similar investment cost for the amount of turns it would take for you to get the gems to get it. If you can go for those 2-pointers or the 3-pointers, that's what you want to do. And you'll see, looking at the cards purchased by everyone around the table, there's only one 1-point card that was purchased, and that was a level 1 1-pointer. No level 2 1-point cards have been purchased as of yet.
Another buy coming out of Levi here.
A solid purchase for Levi. It only costs him 1 gem because he has those resources in his tableau, and it again helps him build towards his level 5 card.
Because he does have the 5-point card in his hand. Requires 7 red, 3 black. And he's quite close to having that. He doesn't need that many coins to just build it. And if he does, that will put him into first place. Looking at way down there, check his own cards out. He has some tough things to build in his reserve.
It feels like Wei is in a really tough spot. Just hamstringing himself a bit with those 3 level 3 cards. Perhaps he thought, okay, I need to get these not into other people's hands, and was trying that sort of denying strategy. But now we see the results of that. I believe it is still Michael's turn. Making that calculation.
Oh, a reserve.
Taking that wild and taking that red as well, making sure that Levi cannot get it.
You didn't keep the gold.
You'll probably want this. I mean,
Yeah.
you
That's a
don't
very
want
expensive
Yeah.
card that's replaced it. Oh,
I will be
Michael
taking
just taking his wild chip as well.
What's my
That he
card?
he
This
just
is
took the
mine.
card and not the
Okay.
wild that was associated with it.
mm.
You might want to keep that. People are saying
We have a big build here from Gray.
this is a big build from Gray. A 4-point card putting Gray at 9 points. He has been holding onto that card for a while, and he's been able to do it in a pretty sneaky fashion, I feel. I don't think the other players were expecting it.
I believe it was 4 turns ago. He had 0 points.
Yeah.
He evened it up with Michael with a 1 5-point card, and now he's shot very solidly into first place with a 4-point card. He has 9 points here.
He doesn't have any chips, but he does have a solid foundation as well. Blue and green have been important in this game, and Gray's been able to recognize that. We could even potentially see him go for that 6 blue, 3 white, 3 green card. That might be his next play worth 4 points in the top row.
He is getting quite close as well to being competitive for a couple of these nobles at the top. More competitive than Michael, anyway.
Sorry, what just happened?
Yeah.
He took one blue and returned to black.
Oh, okay.
That's true, and if Gray can get that 6 blue, 3 green, 3 white card in the top row, second from the left, and reserve it, and then move forward towards that noble, that 3-point noble, with the 4 blue cards and the 4 green cards, that could be a very easy strategy. Picking up a couple of the level 1 gems that are still on the bottom, which would help contribute to achieving that level 4, scooping up the white, and then closing it. Building that final green card to get him the noble would give him a 7-point bump, and might be the way he's considering.
Yeah, I've been watching Gray in the left-hand side picture-in-picture, and I was wondering why he was so bound up. It looks like there was a lot of stress there, and he's loosened up right now. I think he was seeing the future, watching his points go up, and hoping it would happen.
And he seems less stressed right now, that's for sure. He might have a plan in place. And if I was in his position, that's probably the plan that I would pursue. And I'm not one to go for a noble strategy.
Oh, we have a reserve coming out of Michael.
Reserving a white card, that's not going to affect Gray's chances.
No, it's not. I don't know what he's trying to deny there. Is he trying to purchase something with that, maybe? I don't see anything. Right, taking some coins. Some gems.
And you see he's taken a white, a blue, and a green. He hasn't yet reserved that. He's taking the opportunity to get a white. Maybe he thinks he can buy it from the board. We see Wei making a play from his hand, getting that 7 blue on the board.
Oh, wow.
Moving up to 6 points. That's huge for Wei. Definitely needed. That's why he was hoarding all those blue. But it does put blue back on the table if Gray is going to scoop those up. That's the challenge, though. If Gray scoops up the blue, are people going to notice what he's going for?
You can
and
see,
will they cut him off?
as soon as that happened, Michael started counting his chips. I think he's trying to see how many blue he can pick up, what he can deny.
Levi still building towards that 7 red, 3 black, or 3 brown, but the card that just came up, or no, my mistake. I thought something else came up.
What is he thinking there?
Just taking those chips, again taking the reds and the browns.
I don't know if this game is going Levi's way. The way he's moving his chips around, I don't know if that's
But he's set up. He's set up to make his big 5-point play, which would put him at 8 points. Gray's only at 9. Michael's still deciding. Was seeing what his cards that he's purchased can help him do. He has what looks to be 2 white, 1 red, 1 green, and 2 brown. Which again, I think he should just try to scoop up that 1 point that's still on the board. But it's a tough pill to swallow. Or go for the red 2 that costs 5 brown and 3 white. That seems to be a better investment, especially since he reserved that 7 red. It could help build towards that. And that's exactly what he does.
Yeah, I believe both the cards he has in his reserve. Very red hungry. That puts him up in points. 7 points now.
So still a very competitive game. Way at 6 points. Gray at 9. Levi at 3, but he's ready to jump up to 8, probably on his next turn. And then Michael at 7. Way checking his cards, seeing which of these early investments he can attempt to purchase next.
He doesn't have that many gems in the bank. I think he's going to have to take gems here instead of building something. Unless he can nab something cheap from row 1. I don't think so, though. This is always a frustrating point in the game. Yes. Oh, no, he's going to reserve.
He reserves. He's opened up his reserve spot. He's contemplating his decision, and he takes the one that requires 4 brown, 2 white, and 1 red because he has sort of those chips and wants to make sure nobody else gets it. This is a big card for Levi to see. This would directly help his 7 red if he wants to purchase it.
I think he has the money for it.
That's a big card to happen for Levi right now. You can see he was all set to purchase his big 7 and 3, but now he's rethinking, do I go for that 3 red and delay it just a little bit?
It's not that much of a sacrifice. He's missing it on 2 points this turn, but it makes it so much easier to get the higher point cards later on.
It's true, and 3 points is a big swing. If he's able to get that, then his 5-pointer, he only needs 4 more points to take it.
That puts him very competitively.
Levi making that decision, and he takes it,
yes,
rightfully so. A nice turn from Levi, and capitalizing on that red coming up.
Oh, I wonder if Way's regretting reserving that card now.
That's a big card for Levi at the opportune moment. Sometimes you just need to have those cards turn up, and you'll see that's potentially why people are afraid of reserving or try to reserve early so that they can understand the board state a little bit more and not have those opportune cards come up. With only 36 cards in the level 2 deck especially, 30 cards in the level 2 deck, and 4 starting on the board, 26. You're going to get through a lot of the cards throughout the game. That could be a turning point for Levi's game.
Yeah.
And it can switch just like that. We thought, yeah, he's only going to have 8, but then what is his engine building towards? And that's exactly now what his engine is building towards. And he still has that mystery level 2 card, which could scare some people around the table, that's for sure.
Yeah, we haven't seen any hint of what that one might be. Seeing on the other side of the table, Gray is started to take a little bit more stress into his posture again. Is he planning a big play, or is what Levi just done put a little worry on him?
And you see Michael take some whites, which Gray wanted to get if he was going for that card that we talked about. I wonder, will we see now Gray reserve that card? Because he can't take gems, so he doesn't need the white.
Oh, this is a purchase.
Or instead he purchases another blue card, again investing in his blue engine.
This sets him up very nicely. Yes, this sets him up very nicely for moving towards those nobles. A number of them require 3 blues, and now he has it. A number of them require 3 greens. He has 2.
I think he's got to be going for that 4/4 noble. He has to have that on his mind. Unfortunately, Levi's spread, the same number of cards, is not heading towards a noble, which might be the difference. But a nice card, again, just turned up for Levi. It's only 1 point, but it only costs him 1 red gem if he wants to pick up an extra point. And that might be a pretty significant consideration because it would put him at 7, plus 5 would get him to 12. And getting 3 points is a lot easier in 1 card than getting 4 points. So he may want to scoop up that blue gem for the low cost of 1 red gem. But we also see Wei is in the position to take that as well, if that is something he's interested in building towards. Wei is focused a bit on the brown gems because the card he just picked up cost 4 brown gems. But that's probably what Wei's inner turmoil is right now. Or is the card at Levi's turn? It might be Levi's turn. I think he has that sort of white card beside him. We see Levi counting.
I think it is still Wei's turn.
Oh, Levi was reaching for chips. I think it's yeah, it must be Levi's turn. We must have missed a quick chip grab from Wei. When we were so excited talking about the nobles, probably.
Probably.
Well, I never focus on nobles. That is often how I lose in a game. If I lose, it's because I have neglected the nobles. And Levi is taking he's taking chips. He might be playing. He's got to make this decision. But he's got a lot to decide. You can see him going back and forth.
I can see that card he reserved now.
We now get a quick peek at it. It is a red card, which works beautifully with his engine if he's able to complete it.
He does need... I peeked there for a second. It looks like he does need green gems to complete that red card, which is why he keeps going for the greens. I think he was going to grab 2 greens there, but thought better of it.
Yeah, opting for more gems over specialization. That's surprising to me. Well, not really. When Gray has 9 points on the horizon, even breaking up your engine for a second to get that 1 little point, you can see why he didn't do that. Mm-hmm. And he's also putting himself in a place where he can, again, get those 5 points and move into first place if he does. Everyone is very competitive at this table. Zach, who's your prediction to win it right now?
My prediction? I am rooting for Gray right now, I think. I'm very impressed how he went from so few points to so many. I think he has another couple surprises in the can. But if I was to tell you who my heart is with right now, it's with Wei. I want to see him play those cards from his reserve and surprise me.
The long con that Wei's been working on. And it's true. I mean, Wei's still very competitive right now. If he's able to, he's still by no means out of it, and he has those options in his hand which the other players do not have, which might end up being a pretty significant factor if the game lasts long enough for him to be able to play it.
And we've seen Levi earlier in the game. He built this engine that had no points and very quickly turned that into points. Wei does have a very good engine over there. He has the ability to turn that into points.
Yeah, I don't know with the current board state. I feel, for me, I would give the edge to Gray right now, as long as he's able to reserve that one card. If he's unable to reserve that one card, I think his whole game might come crashing down.
I agree.
Because he needs that to put the final nail in everyone's coffin. And it doesn't look like anybody at this point can afford to sacrifice a turn to try and stop that.
It looks like it is Michael's turn right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at him in the little camera. I'm wondering if he's looking at Gray and trying to think of what he can do. I think that's literally what he's doing. I can see him looking over at Gray's cards right now.
Michael's still at 7 points and also having a few high-value point cards in his reserve. Opting for red. I think we're going to see a struggle here, too, because Michael has red in his reserve and Levi has red in his reserve.
They are tightening that supply.
And they are fighting each other for control of those reds. Meanwhile, Gray, does he reserve that green card? He does.
There we go.
That's it. That is the exact card he needed to put into his hand.
All right. It feels very much like the game is on a clock now, whether the players have realized it or not.
Michael checking that card, saying, wait a minute.
I think they see what's happening.
Just wait a second here. Can you take that back? I would like to swap that out, please.
There really wasn't anything Michael could do, though. He had 3 cards in his reserve.
That's true. The only person who could have stopped it at that point was Levi, and he is invested in
racing those reds, yeah.
Especially because of the competition between him and Michael for the reds.
What did Wade just build there?
He built from his reserve the one that required four black, 2 white, and 1 red, putting him at 8 points as well. And with 1 gem of each color.
It's a flexible board.
You might start seeing Wei try to move for those 3-pointers up there that require that wide spread. I just don't know if he'll have enough time. The players also then now need to get those blues off the board to stop Gray from being able to complete that blue noble and have to find those extra 3 points another way.
Looks like a build coming from Levi. No? Just counting his chips. He doesn't have enough to play his big 5-point card from his hand.
Levi choosing to reserve 1 up top, 6 red, 3 green, 3 brown.
I don't know if I like that choice. The reds are tight, and he does have a good red engine, but he does need 3 or 4 reds from the supply in order to make anything happen here.
Yeah, it seems tough. I'm not quite sure how Gray is going to get that final blue in order to get the noble, if that is his strategy. But then again, if we look on the board right now, he may not even need to get the noble, because on the board is something that costs 4 blue 2 green, and 1 white. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what Gray has.
You're right. It's only a 2-point card, though.
We hear Gray talking to Levi discussing Levi saying, well, maybe I should have blocked you more. And Gray said, yeah, but then you'd have to kill yourself in the process. And that's a very true statement. It's a tough decision to make. Especially becomes tougher when the other players are full up and you're the only one who can reserve cards.
Mm-hmm.
And the onus sort of falls on you.
There's a little bit of a game of chicken where you're holding back while your opponent holds back, and when they've held back too much, then you take your action.
Yeah.
At the point where they are helpless to stop you. It's a purchase coming from Michael buying a level 1 card.
Green, red, black. Just research out.
Getting in those whites.
I meant to do. I didn't do green.
I think he may try to go for that black-white noble up
Sorry,
there,
I meant to do this.
but it's a long way away.
Seems too far away at this point. Although I really don't know how.
Still in this.
I can see how Gray is going to be
Just away
able to complete
from this. Yeah, that makes sense.
his card that he reserved with the whites.
You don't need the white.
Oh no, Michael reversing that decision actually,
Oh my.
Look a fishy turn, didn't it?
and taking a red instead. Michael purchasing that red.
Gotcha.
And that makes more sense for Michael's reserved cards, since he has the one, again, the battle that Levi's been focused on.
Oh,
And we see Wei pick up that 1 point. It's a good block against Levi, but we also see now this additional blue having come up. Gray's head is in his hands. He sees the options on the table. Which one is he going to take? Either the 2 points in the red card or the blue that could give him a chance at the noble, but he would still need to purchase 1 additional green in order to have that 7-point swing turn. We see Levi now shooting to the lead, playing that big 7 red, 3 black card, putting him at 11 points. Levi only needing 4 to win, and potentially looking for the cards that can do it.
oh man. It is this part of the game that requires nerve. Do you stick to your guns or do you scramble?
And this is why Levi reserved that card. He knows he's been generating, very similarly to Gray, he's been generating lots of red, and he has the black needed and has a green in his reserve. Levi is trying to get that 6 red, 3 black, 3 green before Gray can get his 6 blue, 3 white, 3 green, and an additional 2 points. Levi is at 11 points, so if he does get this card before Gray's managing to do it, he will be our winner. They have exactly the same number of cards right now, too. And if there's a tiebreaker, for those of you at home who don't know, Splendor, you get the same amount of turns as everyone else. So if Michael happens to get to 15 points first, everyone else will get 1 more turn because Michael was the first player. If Levi gets to 15 points first, no one will get an additional turn because Levi went last. So everyone gets the same amount of turns to try to get to 15 or over. And if you are over 15, then it's the highest score that wins. So if I get to 16 and you get to 15 at the same turn, well, the 16 point would win. And if you are tied in points, then it's whoever bought the fewest cards, who had the most efficient engine.
Wow, that has never come up in one of the games I've played. Probably because I am terribly inefficient when it comes to playing Splendor.
But this is an interesting choice for Gray now to puzzle out. Should he spend some of his gems and have to recoup them on those 2 points, or should he spend less and try to scoop up the cheaper options at the bottom, which would give him access to the noble? If I were Gray, I would probably just purchase that 2 points on the red card that's currently on the table. It only costs him 1 blue chip and 1 white chip to do so.
I think he's going to play the card from his reserve right now.
Because he has enough.
He has enough for it. It gives him his green. That's 3 green, 3 blue, and he just needs to worry about the red if he wants to go for a noble.
I'm not sure that would be the best play. I think you
you're right.
can purchase the cards that are in your reserve. They're guaranteed, but you may not get the chance to purchase the cards that are on the board. But it is tough if he puts his resources out there and he needs those white to eventually complete his big card. He then has to work a little bit harder to get it back, especially if his opponents work together and deny those chips and take them into their own reserves. But if Gray plays, he'll need to play a blue and a white chip to get 2 points, and then he'll have to get those chips back in order to play his card. And I think that would be the game. That would bring him to 15. And he needs to do that before Levi is able to get the cards, the chips needed to purchase his big card.
We see a committing to go for a purchase from Michael.
He purchased from his reserve the 7 red, putting Michael now at 11 points as well. Michael also having a big card in his reserve, but that one requires green, making it a lot harder. You see Gray reserving that card so he doesn't have to fight for those chips. Rather than purchasing it directly from the board, he reserves it so he saves himself a chip so that no one can steal it from him down the line. The safe play, and then all Gray has to do is purchase the cards in his reserve to win. All Levi has to do is purchase the card in his reserve to win, and all Michael has to do is purchase the card in his reserve to win.
Unless I'm wrong, I think Michael has the... Oh, no, he doesn't. Never mind. Never mind. I was doing the math wrong, Chris.
Michael's in a tighter spot because his requires green to build, and he does not have that green. Wei has been making some moves to get back in the game, buying those little points as well. I'm not quite sure as to the point count on Wei.
I believe he's at
Getting there.
9 points, but there's one of his cards I can't quite see.
Around 10-ish.
Wei really needing to get to that 10 and then capitalizing, 10 or 11, and then capitalizing on something he's been holding in his reserve all game. But I think right now, it feels like it's Gray's. That reserve play was a really good play because it is exactly used to counteract his opponents from scooping up all of the chips that he needs to use.
What is Levi gonna do here?
The obvious play for Levi right now would be to take 2 red. The reds were just added back. He needs those red.
He's gonna take 3 coins instead. I don't know if he needs these other gems.
Well, he needs the green. He needs the green in order to complete his big card as well. So taking the red now, he's hoping that there will be more reds still left by the time it gets back around to his turn so he can take 2 of those. Or taking another red and a green would be ideal so that he would have 3 green, 5 red, and just need to reserve 1 to complete. Levi is 1, 2, 3 turns away from winning. Levi will get to 15 points in 3 turns. Now it's just if Gray can do it in 2. Does he have the gems needed? Or also, Levi may not get there if that green chip is taken.
Michael's thinking hard here.
Michael trying to see if he can get there in at least 3 turns.
We saw that last time when Gray played that card, Michael regretted it. He has to look at it afterwards. He's trying not to make the same mistake.
You guys have done enough? Okay. I wasn't sure. So you're like,
I think you win. I think that's a safe assumption.
We just heard Michael say, "I think you win" to Gray. Levi saying, "I think that's a safe assumption."
So I was like, I literally was sitting here thinking, well, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna hope that's good.
Okay.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't, Michael. What are you going to do? Looks like a purchase or something.
All the players kind of knowing the lay of the land, now just trying to maximize those final turns,
You can see that.
Oh.
showing what he's paying, getting those 3 grand out there, and that's good news for Levi. But we hear the chatter around the table. It seems like everyone has already decided that Gray has enough to win. We see Gray purchasing that big 3-pointer right now. That big 4-pointer. Or no, sorry. He was purchasing his 2-pointer that he picked up and using his wilds to do so.
Sure, I saw that right.
Yeah.
You put 2 gold in.
I did, and I used the 1 gold for 1 white, and then I used the other gold for 1 blue.
Okay.
So
Levi
that,
putting the gold in.
Using them for
Sorry,
now.
Gray putting the gold in.
Just like to be as careful
I mean, he
as
has
possible.
364 in his hand. It's fine. He's doing it with style.
Yes.
Well, I'm doing it because
there's going to be a little fight over the blue coins, I think.
I didn't want to put white in the pool for a double pull.
Yeah,
Mm.
that makes sense.
Yep, still counterplay even at this end when people think they see the winner.
Optimization.
Cute.
And that's the reason why Gray put in those gold, so that he could hold on to the color chips that potentially his opponents would need. We hear him saying, I couldn't remember if you needed that white or not. It's hard to keep track, especially when they're taken early in the game.
I believe that's 11 points for Gray,
That's quite
9 points on Wei.
11 points on Levi, and 11 over for Michael,
I think so.
or 12 for Michael.
Yeah.
Michael at 12.
So Michael is in the lead, technically.
Michael really hoping that a 3-pointer would have come up, but the 2 3-pointers that he really has access to in that level 2 row have already been purchased. Both of them by Levi. The brown and the red 3-pointers that require brown and red.
At this point, I think all the players are hoping a card gets purchased from the board and opens something unexpected up.
Levi purchasing himself a card to get him that extra red, putting himself at 12 points.
That new blue card is not going to be what they need. I don't think anyone's going to jump on that.
It looks like Gray only has 2 white, and he needs 3 white, unless I probably am miscounting.
It does only look like he has 2. It's very hard to see from this perspective how many chips are in a stack. I'm wishing that Gray was one of the poker players here because they keep shuffling their chips.
And there you go. He does have the 3. He's playing it right now. That is how he was able to do it in 2 turns. Gray has gotten to 15 points. Last turn for Wei and Levi. And Levi needed just 1 more turn to be able to get there.
Just a casual buy of a card from Wei.
Just to add it.
Maybe hoping to open something up for Levi here.
Or I think probably minimizing his effect.
You were chip off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, red green as a turn on.
Very close. Levi shows his card saying, I couldn't purchase it.
I would have done red green and then the following turn.
Was your other one a multi-white? Did I remember that right?
This,
He was
this-
red
That's the
green.
one I blind drew.
This is a really fun game to watch. You know, the game starts with green, blue, green, blue, green, blue. And not that these are actually a part of the game, but there they are too. Green, blue, and you were the only one who did it.
Well, I was told by the last guy that played with me, he's like, in high level you cannot go for these. He said that, and I was like, well, I've only ever gone for them. So I was like, you know what? I still think this is good because it's green, blue with alt red. And I was like, I'll still go for it and see what happens.
I mean,
But
halfway through the
I
game,
thought-
I'm looking at Gordon going,
Great talking about the
the
nobles.
game wants you to do a
I-
certain thing, and he's the only one
I
doing
think
it.
that's
I bet he wins.
I expected,
You have
I
to
expected him
play that
like,
initial
I expected
board,
them to contest
and-
blue and green. That's why I
Well, he was
to
holding
like,
blue forever,
yeah,
but I just
yeah.
kept like I knew you had to use him eventually, so I was like, I'm not gonna break first if I give.
Can I get a handshake?
Of course.
And it seemed like
That's
you
a
got-
very interesting game there.
Very interesting game. And a nice wrap up from the players a little bit at the table, discussing a little bit of a post-mortem happening there.
Here, I was holding my breath for half that game, Chris.
Yeah,
The intensity of the decision making,
really.
the focus, the interplay between all these players. It's so excellently fun to watch.
Absolutely, and especially when you see them keeping track of all the various information, that's something that I really like to see. Even everyone saying and coming to the realization, oh shoot, Gray's won it, and we can't do anything about it because they are so aware of everything that is happening around the table. That's what makes it exciting to me for sure. And you see them moving back and forth and knowing what people are thinking, and everyone's consensus at the end.
Enormous props to
Yeah.
all of these players. Here in the studio, we have all of the information. We have all of their hands, all of the reserve cards in front of us. We're looking at things unfold as it happens.
And we're still losing track.
And we're still losing track, but they are counting each other's cards. They know what gems each other's have. They're on it. And it's really amazing to see that level of play.
Yeah. One thing I do want to bring up, and I hope it doesn't make Levi lose any sleep at night, is that one turn where Levi had to exchange his chips. Do you remember that turn?
Yeah, that's cost him.
And Levi was one turn away.
I think
from
we were
taking
talking
the
about
game.
it at the time. We were saying that that's a loss of efficiency. And man,
And that's how close these sorts of games can be. And honestly, a lot of the games of the World Series have been this close, which has been really exciting to watch. And if you want to watch any of those, feel free to keep tuning into this YouTube channel. We have them all, and there will be more upcoming as we move forward.
but if live excitement's what you're looking for, the World Series will be coming back next year. Be sure to tune in.
That's true. We will be streaming more things live, or hey, just purchase a ticket to the event and go and join it yourself. Join in on the action. Maybe you can take away one of those awesome rings just like Gray did. Anyway,
So cool.
I think that's it for us
So
in the
cool.
studio. It was a great game. Anything else to add, Zach?
I have nothing to add.
Just that it was a fun game to watch, and I feel you as well. I think we'll be having a fun discussion off air as this happens. Thank you so much for joining me, Zach.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for tuning in to the World Series of Board Gaming. Hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe. It's the first time I've said that on one of these broadcasts. And we will see you next time.